Foolishness, machine, foolishness.
Alright, walk with me here, everyone. Okay, so guess what? I really love Ultrakill. I recently got back into it, actually, at a very good time, may I add. I mean, before it literally came out, like, not that long ago, and it was amazing, as to be expected. It did make my head hurt a little bit, and also made me feel like I was being astral projected into hell itself, but, you know, whatever. Hakita, you are evil for 8.3, but specifically the entire space section. Anyway, I was thinking, of course, I was gonna make an Ultrakill video, right? And it's like, well, what to talk about exactly? Should I make a video trying to explain the lore, or maybe try and analyze the presentation of hell within the game? Because I think that's very interesting, but then I thought, no, of course not. What if I instead made a video talking about how much I low-key ship the two main characters, like just a full-on propaganda video for these two? That's a great idea, I think, so here we are. If you for some reason decided to watch this video not knowing what Ultrakill is, first of all, what are you doing here? Go play the game, it's really good. But if you've decided to stick around, here's a brief synopsis of the plot. So, humanity's dead, like, we're extinct in this game, shit's fucked. In this universe, there was a great war that lasted around 200 years, during which machines were invented which use blood as fuel. In Ultrakill, we play as one of these very machines, named V1, as they travel down through hell in search of blood, which they find a lot of. I know this video may seem like it's gonna be kinda silly from this intro, but I will be genuinely trying to discuss these two's characters and dynamic here. Like, we will be getting serious in the Ultrakill yaouri video, don't worry. Of course, keep in mind while watching, this is all written pre-Treachery. Like, there's obviously gonna be a bunch of new content about these two in the final layer, but who even knows what's gonna happen there? I mean, I have some ideas of what could happen I'll be bringing up, but, you know. Guys, I am hoping and praying this video reaches the right audience who have no idea, but anyway. Enjoy this video of me rambling about these two freaks who have taken over my life. While playing through the first layers, we catch little mentions of Gabriel before actually meeting him. Our first time hearing about him is in Limbo. We see a giant stained glass window with his visage on it, and a headless skeleton praying underneath. A nearby journal has an unnamed sinner, presumably this very skeleton, apologising to Gabriel and calling him their friend. This is immediately setting up the fact that Gabriel is heavily revered, even worshipped. Whoever this sinner was, they were hoping that Gabriel would grant them their salvation, but to no avail. Then, in the next layer, we learn a bit more about the guy. He was the one to tear down the prosperous city of Lust after executing its king, Minos, in front of his subjects. While they all cried out for their beloved ruler, Gabriel stood by, seemingly uncaring, simply calling his murder an act of justice. Seems that Gabriel could be quite cruel then, murdering the king and thus tearing down all that the sinners of this layer worked so hard to create, simply because the Lord's will demanded it. This also gives us some insight into how heaven works in Ultrakill too, that it is very strict in upholding how it believes the natural order of hell should be. Sinners are there to be punished, and any deviation from that will be met with heavy force. It seems like a great place. We are first introduced properly to Gabriel at the very end of the Gluttony layer, being given a dramatic speech from him.
Machine, turn back now. The layers of this palace are not for your kind. Turn back, or you will be crossing the will of God.
It's notable that Gabriel's the first instance of voice acting that we hear in Ultrakill. Before that has just been a load of... Gabriel warns V1 to turn back lest they face the wrath of God. V1 wouldn't hesitate to fight God, so they press forward.
Your choice is made. As the righteous hand of the Father, I shall rend you apart, and you will become inanimate once more.
The first Gabriel boss fight then occurs with a very flashy entrance from the angel himself. He taunts V1 throughout the fight, mocking them for being nothing more than an object and declaring that the Lord's light is perfection. Typical remarks from someone like him, somebody who clearly sees himself as so far above this lowly machine he's dealing with. Halfway through the fight, Gabriel begins to get angry that this has taken too long, showing that not even angels of the Lord himself are above getting rage-baited by V1. Gabriel's rage here is really funny to me, because this is an archangel we're dealing with, a being that is supposedly meant to be this like pure holy creature, and here he is getting mad about fighting a machine. It's great. V1 of course solos Gabriel because they're the GOAT, and Gabriel is not pleased.
Blessed by this thing? You insignificant fuck! This is not over!
Again, there's something personally funny to me about this angel, who is so holier than thou, instantly raging and cussing at V1 once he's been defeated. He declares that this is not over and leaves V1 with these words.
May your woes be many, and your days few.
He then departs, heading back to heaven to face the judgment of the Heavenly Council. Now, Gabriel has been established as being one of the strongest angels. According to his terminal entry, he has a reputation based on both fear and respect. He carries out the Council's bidding with efficiency with no questions asked. So, how do you suppose the Heavenly Council reacts to his defeat at the hands of a machine? Well, they are not pleased. We see in the aftermath of Gabriel's retreat in the Act 1 intermission, as he kneels humiliated before the Heavenly Council, they brand his defeat as an act of heresy, as he is apparently implying that the will of God can be shaken by mere objects. They are being incredibly harsh with Gabriel here, claiming that he has committed blasphemy towards the Father. They decide that Gabriel's great crime of losing a single time must be met with the harshest punishment. They strip the holy light from his body, a process that is described as being so agonizing that the fires of hell cannot compare to it. He is instructed to unmake his mistake, and that he will die in 24 hours should he fail. As the light is ripped away from him, a single burning emotion courses throughout Gabriel's body: hatred. The scene is rather short, but it does a great job of showing just how cruel and tyrannical the Council is. We don't know how these angels got into power after God left thousands of years ago to go buy milk, but I guarantee they weren't voted in or anything like that. Even if they were, why would you vote for people like this? If this is how they treat their top enforcer after a single mistake, imagine how the ordinary citizens of heaven are treated. These guys are willing to let their number one warrior wither and die after losing one battle after what could very well be thousands of years of doing their bidding without issue. I mean, from what we know of heaven outside of this scene, it doesn't seem like the best place in general. In the terminal entry for the virtues, we learn that your status as an angel is dependent on the worth of your soul, similar to how the husks work in hell. The virtues are the lesser angels, and are as such expected to carry out work that the other angels can't be bothered to deal with. Imagine getting into heaven and being made to spend the rest of your afterlife working, send me to hell at that point. Whether or not heaven was like this before God vanished is unknown, but right now under the rule of the Council, heaven is not a good place to be. There's a detail about this scene that I find very interesting, and that is the Council referring to Gabriel as an it upon his defeat. You see, gender in Ultrakill's heaven works as followed. Angels have none by default, they are genderless beings. However, those of greater status and rank are referred to using masculine pronouns, as it's seen as a signifier of their closeness to God compared to the other angels. Gabriel and supreme angels of his kind are referred to using he/him pronouns, not really as a sign of gender, but as a sign of their rank. And so, because Gabriel has supposedly squandered his power and status through his loss to a machine, his masculine pronouns are replaced, and he is instead referred to as an it. It's as though he's now being seen as being on the same level as the object that he lost to in the eyes of the Council. He literally loses his pronoun privileges, you cannot make this up. The angels in Ultrakill are straight up genderless, and yet they still manage to make their society patriarchal. I mean, it makes sense since their god is male, but still, another reason why Ultrakill's heaven is messed up. Do you guys think there's any, trans femme angels? Because I do. Perhaps that's why Gabriel puts so much emphasis on V1 being an object, a thing, because in Heaven's culture, that's the type of language you use to describe those who are below you. Our main takeaways from this scene are as followed. Heaven is currently being run by a corrupt council that will discard one of their most valuable soldiers seemingly on a whim, and that said discarded soldier is angry, furiously so, and he is coming for V1. Meanwhile, V1 is tearing through hell, just absolutely destroying everything in their path. We learn a little bit more about Gabriel and greed. During Sisyphus' rebellion against heaven, Gabriel led an army of angels to fight the king's insurrectionists and would ultimately come out victorious after he deliberately targeted Sisyphus so that his people would be left scrambling about their leader. It seems that his attack on Minos wasn't an isolated incident then. Gabriel has been used by the council to bring back order to hell a fair few times. I wonder if there were any other instances of something like this happening. I mean, if so, we'll probably learn more about it with the third Prime Soul, but who knows who that's going to be. In stark contrast to this, we learn about Gabriel's more merciful nature and wrath. By reading through the ferryman's journal, we learn that he saved them from drowning in the ocean of Styx and was kind to them. This led to the ferryman revering Gabriel and worshipping him. Gabriel was most likely the only person to show any compassion towards the ferryman, so they hold him in the highest of regards. Fun fact, the journal entry was originally meant to outline how, upon being saved, the ferryman was going to pass out and awaken in bed because Gabriel brought them there. The implications of this being, well, you know. This was changed because, and I quote, it didn't fit with Gabriel's arc at the moment. At the moment? Wait, hold on. We learn in that terminal entry that Gabriel is seemingly the only angel in heaven who cares about the work that the ferrymen do. There's more to Gabriel than just being a merciless weapon of the council. I mean, his terminal entry specifically calls attention to the fact that Gabriel is very popular among the angels specifically because he isn't as dogmatic as the council. These two sides to Gabriel are what makes him so fascinating to me. He is a mighty warrior who carried out the will of the council without question, spreading death and misery to the souls of hell, but he can also be kind and take care of certain souls who show that there are good within them. I do genuinely believe that Gabriel is a good person, or at least has the capacity to be one, but his morals have been warped over time while working under the council. V1 eventually reaches Heresy, and on the way through they encounter Gabriel again, who calls out to them.
Machine, I know you are here. I can smell the insolent stench of your blood-stained hands. Come to me.
Why did he say it like that? Another fun fact, Hikita outright said in one of the development streams that Gabriel's voice line here is entirely purposeful in how it sounds. To quote him directly, this is no longer subtext. Thank you, Hikita, very cool. The final layer of Heresy has V1 face off against the fallen angel, who laments to them about how much he hates them for ruining his life. He then proceeds to ultra-kill it on the organ. He's just aura farming here for no reason. Hours left to live, by the way. Upon reaching Gabriel, we get what is most likely the most iconic bit of dialogue from this game.
Machine, I will cut you down, make you apart, splay the gore of your profane form across the stars. I will grind you down until the very sparks cry for mercy. My hands shall relish ending you here and now.
And so, round 2 commences. Gabriel is instantly enraged, and his insults are far more cutting and vindictive. His perfect hatred for the machine that took everything from him has consumed him entirely. Keeping it real, this is probably my favourite fight in the game, at least so far. The atmosphere is insane as you face off against this archangel who has fallen so far. The music playing during this fight is so good, it's like my favourite, I think, of Hikita's songs, again, at least so far. It's such a good portrayal of Gabriel's character in this moment. You can feel the anger, the raw desperation, the determination to rend V1 apart. I could be looking too much into this, but to me there's also like a slight underline of sadness to the song. Likely Gabriel's despair about his current position for being cast aside for such a simple mistake after working for the council for so long. Perhaps, though, it's more like anger. Anger at himself for losing to V1. The cover art for this song is literally Gabriel driving a spear through himself. If that doesn't showcase how he feels about himself in the moment, I don't know what does. He's desperate to redeem himself in this moment and will stop at nothing to take down the machine that ruined his life. However, halfway through the fight, something changes. Gabriel is no longer enraged, and he's laughing. As the fight continues, his voice lines also change dramatically in tone. Something's different, something's changed within Gabriel, and we soon find out what this is. He's enjoying it. Gabriel is having fun fighting V1. This is the first time in the game we've seen him actively happy, and it's while in battle against what is supposed to be his sworn enemy, his rival, the one who took everything from him. Gone is the blinding hatred from before, the hatred that he so fiercely spat at V1. Now there is only pure ecstasy. You may think I'm being hyperbolic when I call it this, but that is literally the word used in the game files with Gabriel's model during this phase. Like, the file names for his wings specifically is like wings_ecstasy, I swear to god. Also, just the way he speaks to V1 during this part of the fight, like, listen for yourself. What if instead of Ultrakill it was called Ultra Freak and absolutely nothing changed? I have several words I want to say, but I won't. Like, I understand he's finally enjoying a battle after years of fighting, but this is just too much. Oh my god, enough! Do you see why people call him a freak? Do you see why people ship these two so much? I haven't even gotten to the part where I actually analyze these two, like, as a pair, And here we've got the gay hand of the father absolutely giddy with joy at fighting his arch nemesis. I can't with this fucking angel. Just end the fight. There we go. It's done. After the fight is won, Gabriel immediately poses up like this on the floor, yelling with what sounds like rather excited disbelief at how he got beaten twice by a GoPro. He voices his relief at being beaten by V1, knowing that he has only ever known the taste of victory prior to this battle. After panting and chuckling some more, Gabriel promises to meet V1 again and teleports away, though this time not in a fit of rage. He apparently needs some time to think, and yeah, I'd say that's what he needs after all that. Before the end of the level, he repeats his iconic quote from earlier.
May your woes be many, and your days few.
The tone change is so obvious here. Last time it was a furious declaration, a vow for harm to find V1 and end them soon. This time, though, it's as if he's intentionally calling back to it for the sake of nostalgia. He's treating it like a sort of in-joke between him and V1, like this is their thing. And at this point, I'd say that it is. The Act 2 ending cutscene starts with Gabriel alone on the moon, pondering his experiences up until now with V1. 2 defeats at the hands of the machine had changed Gabriel. It seems like for the first time in maybe his whole life, Gabriel's allowing himself to actually think about his actions, to question what everything he did was for. He wonders why he mindlessly carried out the will of the corrupt council, the ones who have misunderstood God's word throughout his long absence and allowed it to grow twisted. The father is gone, he has been for a very long time, and in that time his will has been warped and used as justification for countless horrendous deeds. Deeds which, up until now, Gabriel carried out without question. Here, Gabriel finally realises the absurdity of it all. All that time he spent working for a cause that meant nothing, that spread nothing but fear and anguish, and he feels immensely guilty for all of this. All of this started with the corrupt Council of Heaven, and so Gabriel decides to deal with them the only way he knows how. There is perhaps a point to be made about Gabriel, someone who has been used as a weapon for thousands of years, immediately defaulting to the usage of violence against the Council. He says as much after killing them that violence is a universal language, a language that he was likely taught by them, and now they find themselves at the end of Gabriel's blade, a blade that they ordered the deaths of who knows how many with. Gabriel speaks of how the Council operates on fear, that they are not for the people at all, and that Gabriel will show everyone that there's nothing to be afraid of. He does this by presenting a severed head to all of heaven, which then plunges everyone into panic and chaos, but look, he's trying. It's his first rebellion, give him a break. It's very poetic that the Council ultimately faces their demise by Gabriel's hands. We don't know how long these people have been in power, or for how long Gabriel's been working for them, but it's probably like maybe thousands of years, hundreds, quite a while. Years of Gabriel blindly following orders, of just doing what was expected of him without any thought for what he actually wants. He was known as one of the greatest warriors of heaven, and the instant he failed, the moment he faced a single defeat, he is branded a heretic and thrown away. I think the Council got a bit too cocky, personally. They let their status as the almighty, holy leaders of heaven get to them. They truly believed that they had the right to act so callously with one of their own, to their top soldier, essentially, and somehow not face any consequences. They've had this coming for a long time, and it is so fitting that the one that they treated as nothing but a weapon for all these years would be the one to turn around and put an end to them. All this to say, of course, Gabriel isn't completely blameless in all that's happened. Gabriel was used by a group of cruel tyrants, yes, but ultimately every choice he made was his own. He still destroyed the city of lust and doomed its inhabitants to be tormented by their once beloved king. He oversaw hell as its judge for ages, allowing the cruel punishments to carry on. He has been the cause of many horrors and many deaths, and he knows this. He feels a great guilt over the atrocities he has caused. And I think that's why Gabriel doesn't care that he's going to die. Without the Council, he seemingly cannot get back the Father's light, and so currently has mere hours left to live. And yet, he kills the Council anyway, wiping out what could very well be the only chance he has to restore his light, to keep living. Because he knows now that he cannot allow these people to continue with their dogmatic regime, even if this will cost him his life. He probably sees it as the least he could do. Something about Gabriel's inevitable death upsets me specifically, because like I said, there's a lot of potential for him to try and be better. The thing is that while Gabriel has done awful things in the name of the Council, he was never evil or even outright malicious, just incredibly blind in his devotion to what the Council preached as God's will. Aside from all of that, Gabriel does seem to be a good person in a lot of aspects. He is very popular among the angels, specifically for being not as dogmatic or strict as the council was, being very active and charismatic. He has a group of followers with the powers who look up to him and take after him in many ways.
You insignificant fuck!
When they find V1 in fraud, they angrily demand to know what they have done with Gabriel. Despite Gabriel's pronoun privileges being revoked, they still refer to him as him, which shows their continued respect for him despite all that's happened. Then there's the ferryman who worships Gabriel as he saved their life when they fell into the ocean Styx. As mentioned previously, the terminal entry states Gabriel is the only person in heaven to appreciate the hard work of the ferryman. Gabriel is loved and respected by a lot of people, unlike the council who were followed only out of fear. The council only ever treated Gabriel as a weapon to be made use of, but many others saw him as much more and revered him. His soon death is a sad inevitability then, as he'll be leaving behind all these people who care about him. Gabriel doesn't seem to mind the thought of dying. Maybe he even sees it as his punishment for all his wrongdoings. Having said all that, it makes me wonder what his true purpose for heading back into hell is. To challenge V1 a final time, sure, that's definitely happening, but is that all there is to it? Does he have another big grand plan, maybe? Who knows, we'll have to see. Either way, we'll get a cool final battle for surely. Now that I've summarised what happens with Gabriel and V1 on their journey so far, I think it's time we get into some proper analysis stuff. One of the most fascinating aspects of these two, to me, and to quite a lot of other people, is that they are in essence mirrors of each other, in several ways. The most prominent parallel between the two is that they are weapons, both in the literal and metaphorical sense. V1 was literally built as a weapon of war, to be used as a tool for humanity. This of course didn't end up happening, but that was their intended purpose. Gabriel meanwhile literally refers to himself as a weapon while pondering alone after his second encounter with V1. He was used as a weapon by the council to carry out their bidding. Going forward, he vows to no longer be wielded by another, and in his first act of free will, he wipes out those who used him. Meanwhile, V1 travels down through hell, which is full of the humans now turned into husks, and wipes them out. Both Gabriel and V1 strike out at those who used or were going to use them, in one way or another. I can imagine that neither the council or humanity ever expected their own tools to be their undoing, but so it goes. While on the topic of V1 being a tool, something I've been thinking about since Fraud was released is V1's newfound status as Hell's favourite plaything. I mean, Hell has been fucking with them all throughout the game, locking doors and teleporting enemies to them, but Fraud really steps it up and perfectly showcases what Hell sees V1 as being: entertainment. This is what Hell desires most after all, to see interesting gory events play out within it. It was made with the sole purpose of serving out violent punishment, so of course its base instinct is to witness great acts of violence taking place and find enjoyment out of them. With how trippy and fucked up Fraud was, with the merging of previous layers and all the tricks played on V1 specifically, I can only take this as Hell going out of its way to toy with them, all for the sake of entertaining itself. I mean, you can literally find a V1 on puppet strings at one point. The ending of 8-4 has V1 on a stage, with the whole boss fight beforehand seemingly being a performance. The audience is empty, but we know who was really watching. If V1 was a tool used for humanity for war, now they've seemingly traded hands. Now they are a tool for Hell's entertainment. Fraud is essentially all about Hell drilling into V1's head that they belong to it, and it can do whatever it wants to them for the sake of amusing itself. Hell's kind of the ultimate parasocial warrior in Ultrakill if you think about it. It's always trying to talk to V1 and mess with them. Hell, they are not your friend. Quick little note while we're talking about Fraud. In the Fraud trailer, they have text saying, don't trust your eyes or your heart. And hey, which location does it show for this last point? The area where V1 meets Gabriel for the first time. Look, I know it's because of the massive fuck-off heart, but come on. Do you think that after the mind-melting experience that was Fraud, V1's gonna be relieved to see Gabriel in Treachery, because they'll be fighting something familiar? Bet they're gonna be sliding towards him like that one gif, you know the one. Another parallel I've seen pointed out is that of V1 and Gabriel both being silenced while in moments of great pain or distress. While Gabriel's having his holy light stripped away, his screams of agony go unheard as they are drowned out by the prayers of the council. These people are more concerned with praising a long-gone god than one of their own on the floor writhing in extreme boiling anguish in front of them. It's a good bit of symbolism for how the council treats its people in general, honestly. As for V1, well, we've got to turn to that infamous death screen. which has one particular line mentioning that they have no vocal interface. This of course leads to the upsetting implication that in their final moments V1 attempts to scream or talk or say anything, but they are unable to as they don't possess a voice box. How very I have no mouth and I must scream of them. Their final thoughts before a game over is them repeating over and over that they don't want to die, but they are unable to express any of this fear because of the way they were built. Because why would a war machine require a voice box? It doesn't need the ability to talk, it doesn't need to be given a way to express itself or get its thoughts out. All it needs to do is kill, it doesn't have thoughts or feelings, right? Well, it's time to talk about V1, yay, yippee! Okay, so let's get one thing straight right now. Yes, V1 canonically has emotions. They are a sentient machine, and just like all the other sentient machines, they have the ability to feel. They are not just a mindless murder robot, they have thoughts and feelings. The death screen shows that they have a limbic system, which is used to regulate things like emotion and memory. So, they have emotions. Okay, now that's out the way, let's talk about V1! I feel kinda bad that I've spent way longer talking about Gabriel in comparison to V1, but we sadly don't get that much in the ways of characterization for V1, at least compared to Gabriel. I mean, this makes sense, seeing as Gabriel's canonically the protagonist in terms of the game's story, but still. There are of course plenty of ideas and headcanons out there for V1, but let's take a moment to look at what we actually get game-wise. As already established, they have a great desire to preserve their existence. This is probably the most concrete thing we know about V1, that they are terrified of dying. That's why they're even down here in hell, like all the other machines, they want to continue living no matter what. They will fight through armies of hell's greatest creations to keep living, if only for a tiny bit longer. Their prime motive is their fear of death. This is ironically perhaps a quite humanizing aspect of V1. A lot of people see them as this like purely badass, unfeeling war machine that can wipe out an entire layer in like 5.2 seconds, and yes, they are a badass, but the reason they fight so hard in the first place is because of that fear, and that is just so compelling to me. Now, what do we get personality-wise? Well, not a lot, but we can make some guesses. For starters, they seem to be quite playful, a scene of them naming the skull Hank for no reason in Limbo, and getting satisfaction out of doing this. They have the ability to just be a little silly. Also, if we're taking the secret levels as canon, which I do because it's funny, they are willing to pause their mission to just hang out and fish for a while. Okay, yeah, this one's dubiously canon, but I want it to be canon. I want V1 to be a terrifying force of nature, but also just get a little silly with it. There's also something to potentially be gotten from the existence of the style point system as well. This system canonically exists in Ultrakill because the terminals in Hell got bored one day and decided to create the style points as a way of encouraging the machines to fight in interesting ways. Similar to Hell, in fact, the terminals seek entertainment from the machines, but unlike Hell, they actually give something in return with the weapons, so there's that. They also created the Cybergrind, a virtual simulation which is entirely dedicated to the machines battling previous enemies in fun ways. Seeing as the game gives you the ability to do all these cool things, is it perhaps safe to conclude that V1 may take some enjoyment out of acting stylishly and getting those P ranks? I'd like to think so. One particular characterization of V1 I personally enjoy is it being a massive show-off with an intrinsic drive to P rank whenever it can. There's also the fact that it was supposedly hard-programmed with an innate desire to destroy Earth movers on sight. Sevenfold demonstrates this very well. All the other enemy names we see are canonically just V1's own interpretation of how they see them. Oh, yeah, that machine is a sword, well, it's a swords machine. That face doesn't look happy, but malicious face. Oh shit, that's Minos, he's in his prime, or yeah, you get the point. However, the second V1 sees the Earth Mover, it instantly knows its full classification and name. The Earth Mover doesn't even have time to try and attack V1 before it's already pulling out its full name and IP address. Also in Fraud, while scanning through a journal, V1 instantly locks in when it sees a single paragraph mentioning the Earth Movers, and I think that's really funny. We learn from terminal entries that each machine created during the final war was made specifically to counter the one before it. The V-Series was made right at the very end of the war, and so never went into mass production, and the Earth Movers were created during the final era of the final war. So we can then conclude that the V-Series was created with the sole purpose of fighting Earth Movers, hence why V1 seems to be constantly on the lookout for any mentions of these machines. It's also why the Earth Mover lets out a piercing alarm when it spots V1, because it knows that this thing was made specifically to kill it. It's like when a person sees a spider. They're smaller than us, so we shouldn't be afraid of them, but these things are freaky and they will kill us. We also know that V1 has the ability to seemingly hold grudges and get annoyed. In the second encounter with V2 as the other machine flees, V1 says this to itself. This is like the only thing it says throughout the entire game so far, and it is vowing to kill V2. Honestly, I think it's really interesting how V1 chooses to spare enemies. Obviously, it basically never does this, but on very rare occasion it does. Specifically with V2 during their first encounter. Perhaps the only reason V2 was able to escape is because it books it out of there, but I mean, V1 has been shown that it is willing to chase them down later on, so why didn't it just do that here? You think V1's gonna let a little thing like this get in the way of some extra blood? No, it'd be crawling up the walls and launching itself after V2, surely. If anyone's curious of my interpretation of this bit, it's that V1 decided to let V2 go, but then got annoyed when they decided to show up later on for a rematch, only to bail out again. I mean, come on man, you started this, you gotta come back and finish it. Now, who else in Ultrakill does V1 allow to leave after winning a fight? Take a wild guess, everyone? Yep, yeah, it's Gabriel. Both times after it beats him, instead of finishing him off, it just kinda stands around and allows him to monologue before he leaves. And not once does V1 attempt to stop him. It has plenty of time to do so, but it doesn't. Why is this? Well, I think that maybe, just maybe, V1 also enjoys fighting Gabriel. I think that it's come across somebody that's different, someone that puts up a really good fight and can match its strength. I think that during their encounters, V1 is having as much fun as Gabriel is. In other words, they match each other's freak. That's all speculation, of course. I don't really have any other answer that isn't, oh, well, Gabriel should be able to leave because he's the main character of the story and the story must continue. Imagine if V1 just got destroyed by Gabriel immediately in Act 1, that'd be boring. And, same for Gabriel, if he just got destroyed immediately, that'd be boring too. So I choose to believe my little headcanon here. And that leads me on to my next point about these two. The main reason for Gabriel's big change during the second encounter is because he begins having fun fighting against somebody who can match his strength. He states that he's only ever known the taste of victory, so the joy of a struggle is exciting to him. It encourages him to continue fighting, to overcome. He's finally found something he wants. In his battles with V1, Gabriel finds a true passion. He initially mistakes said passion for anger, probably because he isn't used to doing something he actually wants, and so he believes that this new strong emotion he's feeling is actually fury at losing. In actuality, he is ecstatic to find an opponent like V1, somebody who is on his level. The terminal entry for him literally says that nothing else matters to him outside of this, not even the incoming destruction of hell. He's definitely, heavily repressed in a lot of ways too, so it makes sense that he doesn't initially understand the depths of these newfound feelings right away. And it is here in realizing and accepting his true emotions and passion that Gabriel begins to pave the way for both his freedom and the freedom of the rest of heaven. I cannot stress enough how all of this, his entire change and subsequent rebellion, is because of V1. Gabriel's rebellion all started because of his encounters with V1, because finding something he actually wanted for once in his life led him to begin to question everything. Gabriel is likely going to spend what little time he has left fighting V1, choosing to spend what will probably be his final hour engaged in battle with the one who changed his life. A big part of why Gabriel was so shocked at losing to V1 was because of its status as a machine, an object, a thing. An archangel such as himself shouldn't be able to lose to something like that, and this enrages him. The second time he loses, though, he realizes something. Status means fucking nothing, ultimately. As he says to the counselor after this, we all bleed the same blood. Gabriel and the counselor know better than anyone else because of their rank, and it was wrong of them to run such a corrupt system for so long, one that pushes people down and runs off of fear. It was wrong of him and the other so-called supreme angels to think of themselves as being so far above everyone else. And he decides that it's time to change the system, to truly make it for the people. And all of this came about because of the machine. As already mentioned, I feel like V1 has some similar feelings to Gabriel. I think that they enjoy encountering him in a way, maybe not to the same insane level as Gabriel, but still. I just think it'd be really fitting, you know? An angel who has spent the better part of his life following orders, fighting battles for the sake of others, finally finding something he wants and being able to unleash his true passion by finding joy in a fight for once. And then there's V1, a war machine with frankly scary abilities that's able to take down archangels, a machine that is able to make even the mighty Earth Mover cry out in fear upon seeing it. The concept of this machine that was driven to hell out of a need to survive, then meeting someone who can rival its own strength. It's literally so romantic. Like, I need someone who will engage in glorious battle with me at the end of hell itself. Speaking of which. Now, as stated at the start, this video was written before the game was even finished, so we currently don't know what's to come at the end of these two's story. However, we can certainly make some guesses. Unfortunately, I can't really see a happy ending for either of them. As already discussed, Gabriel is due to die very soon. He currently has hours left to live and likely will not make it to the end of the game. Yes, he has accepted this, but it's still really sad that Gabriel has finally, after who knows how long, stopped deciding to live for the sake of others, to stop being a mindless weapon controlled by somebody else. He's finally making his own decisions, but he cannot do much more after this. He doesn't have the time to truly set out to see what he wants from life or to try and properly atone for his crimes. Killing the council was at least a start, but there's so much else he could have done that he can never try and fix now. All he can do is head down to hell to face a battle which he likely knows he's not going to win. And what about V1? Gabriel has surely accepted his upcoming demise, but has V1? Let's be honest, V1 likely won't last long after Treachery either. By the time it makes it down there, all of hell will be wiped clean. There will be nothing and no one else around, meaning no more blood, meaning no more fuel. Meaning V1 probably doesn't have much time left either. Unless it can somehow, rocket jump up to heaven and continue its slaughter. But what happens after it's done there? No matter what, its fuel will run out. I wonder if V1's aware of this. Does it know that as it kills everything in its way, it's ultimately dooming itself in the process? This war machine who is so afraid of death, who is seemingly so desperate to keep living, by the time it reaches the end of Treachery, it's likely that it and Gabriel will be the last ones in all of hell. I wonder how V1 would feel about Gabriel so readily accepting his upcoming death, given its own desperation to avoid dying itself. Here it is fighting through all of hell to continue living just a little bit longer, and then at the very end it meets their rival and equal, and he's dying, but he's okay with it. Maybe he even wants it to happen. I feel like V1 could be at a bit of a loss with that, personally. Maybe if Gabriel wasn't doomed to die, there could be some hope. The two of them could perhaps form like a partnership of sorts, one where Gabriel provides V1 with blood and is then repaid by getting to engage in battle with them again and again, experiencing the joy of facing off with an opponent that can properly rival his strength. Gabriel could then keep working to redeem himself, to try and right his wrongs, but unless Gabriel can somehow magically bring back the Father's light within himself, that's not going to happen. And so, these two doomed creatures will face off in Treachery, both running low on their life force, their fuel. One of them has accepted his imminent demise, while the other fights constantly just to live a little bit longer. One final battle between the final two standing in all of hell. An angel of the Lord and a war machine built by man. One who is desperate to keep living and one who doesn't seem to care anymore. The two greatest weapons the universe has known, neither being wielded by anyone but themselves. Absolute freedom in the face of an inevitable tragedy. This is the only way it could have ended. I think the best possible ending that these two could have is going out together in a blaze of glory in one final insane battle, a battle so immense that the aftermath will be felt across the cosmos. I think that would make them both happy. Or at least if V1 somehow manages to continue living after Gabriel, I think the best they can do for him is to grant him one final good fight. I have a feeling Gabriel wouldn't really mind going out at V1's hands. They were the one who started his whole journey after all. It would make sense that they would be the one to end it. Okay, so this last section isn't going to be all, analytical like the rest of this video. It's just going to be me rambling about, miscellaneous things with the ship that I enjoy. Before, it was mostly, canon speculations and discussions and stuff like that, but now we're just in silly headcanon territory. First, I want to give a little shout out to all the official New Blood art of these two, most of which have them going on little dates. I know this is all non-canon, but I think it's really cute and I wanted to mention it. Another thing to mention is seemingly, some of the people, or quite a few of the people working on the game seem to be into the ship and they encourage it. I mentioned Hikita's comment earlier about Gabriel saying,
"Come to me."
Well, that. Then there's also the voice actor of Gabriel himself, Gianni Matragano, who...
Machine, would you like to les out with me a little bit? Please? Us smooching! God loves this! What are you doing in my room, step machine? I swear I will... Oh, whoa? Is that a rail cannon in your pants? Or are you just happy to see me?
Well, suffice to say, he fucks with the ship too. I don't know, I just wanted to mention it. I think it's cool that people making the game seem to like Gabriel. I think that's fun. Something else I'm now adding to this while in the process of editing. I've seen some people recently speculating on where V1's gonna get its golden arm from. You know, the one that's been there for a while, but we don't know where it's even gonna come from. I severely doubt it'll be from V2 again unless she somehow manages to, like, reconstruct herself from the pile of blood and is somehow in Treachery. A lot of people have subscribed to the theory that the gold arm will be Gabriel's, and unless like a new important character shows up in the final 2 levels of the game, I mean, yeah, I can kind of see this happening. I don't really know about the logistics of a machine grafting an angel's arm onto itself. I don't know how that would work and for what purpose, but I can't really think of many other options right now for who it would belong to. Maybe if V1 like yoinks Gabriel's arm in the final fight, it would be like a trophy of war or something. Or perhaps once Gabriel is dead, V1 would want something to remember their greatest rival by. That's kind of romantic, honestly. As for like more non-canon stuff to do with the ship that I like, there's of course, obviously everyone's gonna have like personal views on how their dynamic would work in a romantic sense. For me, it would go something like this. The idea of a war machine that was built for killing, to the point that its existence is almost dependent on this part of themselves. Finding someone to love is really fucking good. Like, V1 is a machine made for violence and seemingly nothing else, but what if they were able to find something else to live for? Something more to their existence that isn't tied to their inherent violent nature? And then you have Gabriel, the poster boy of heaven, finding more to his own existence that isn't dependent on him following orders. He finds something he actually wants and discovers within himself a real passion. He's able to cast aside his status as a weapon and live for himself, using his potential for something he wants. You know, what if instead of blood being fuel, it was love? Makes you think. I'm gonna be so honest, when I first got into Ultrakill, I never foresaw this, me getting super into the ship, I mean. Of all the things to geek out to with Ultrakill, I didn't think this would be one of them, but hey, here we are. It's probably partially due to the fandom, I think. In my personal experience of the Ultrakill fandom, people seem to really like this ship. Like, I was surprised at how much the general fandom seemed to fuck with the ship, honestly. I don't know, I mean, I spend a lot of my time in the fandom on Tumblr, which is like, I mean, it's Tumblr, come on. So it makes sense, but still. In conclusion, Gabriel and V1 are great. I love being able to discuss their in-canon dynamic and all the interesting parts about it while also sitting here and saying they should make out. I started writing this video a little bit into my more recent Ultrakill phase, and the release of Fraud has only encouraged me to finish this video. Shout out to the people on Tumblr who liked my post talking about making a Gabriel video. I did this for you guys, you're the real ones. Anyway, to whoever stuck around listening to me Fujo out this long, thank you very much. Remember to leave out a cup of blood for V1 tonight when they enter your house, because that is going to happen and you need to be prepared for that. Good luck with that. See you in the next video, I suppose.